Chapter 24. Zac got into the driving seat. He looked at the gear stick and didn't have a clue. "Here, you do the driving. I need a rest," he said, trying to hide the fact he couldn't drive a car with a manual gearbox. Driving down the street of twisted metal posts, houses damaged by the floods, and complete isolation, the car picked up every bump in the road. Around every corner he remembered little snippets of his childhood. The vacant space where there had once been a wooden youth group hut was now replaced with only electric wires sticking out of the ground and a bent-over basketball hoop. The mesh wire fence hadn't even been strong enough to take the strength of the water from the dam, and what remained was some rusted, mangled wire in a heap on the floor. The houses were all but demolished, and those that hadn't been smashed to smithereens by the force of the water coming at 100,000 litres per minute had been destroyed instead by the family car, a caravan, or delivery trucks. He could see the tide marks of the water on the sides of the buildings, and remembered watching the TV at school. The disbelief when he and the other children watched it all unfurl. How the looks on their faces changed from delight at watching a disaster movie to a sinking feeling as they all realized this was their hometown, and these were members of their families and friends fighting for their lives to scramble onto the coaches. These feelings had been kept hidden for so long, but now they built something up inside him, and as everything around him became a blur, he spent a moment in quiet and shed a tear. His father must be here somewhere, he thought as they arrived at the cinema. "I can't go any further," she said, pointing at the fallen mobile phone mast and rubble. "We have to ditch the car here." They pulled up. He wiped his face and got out of the car. He was so driven by the want to find his father that he started to run from the car through the cinema car park. "Oi! Wait for me!" shouted Rhea as she ran after him, her lab coat flapping in the wind and wisps of red hair being blown in her face. He looked back and slowed down, waiting for her to catch up. Walking through the car park, through the rubble and twisted metal, they chatted about the rescue back at the house and forming some sort of plan to find his father. She would go upstairs into the gallery of the cinema, as Zac wasn't good with heights, and he would check the basement, and then they would check the ground floor together. As they passed the ticket booth, they walked in through the back doors. There were posters, disposable cups, and cartons littered all over the floor. Rhea noticed that someone had made a pathway through all the rubbish and debris. "Someone has been here," she remarked to Zac. Meanwhile, Zac was reliving old memories of the cinema, with its sweet smell of popcorn, the ice cream and drink servers in stripy pink and white tops and black trousers, holding trays at their waists with straps hung around their necks. "Mint choc chip," he said out loud. "What?" replied Rhea, confused. "Nothing." His face flushed. "I'm off upstairs. See you in 10 minutes back down here." He gave a thumbs up and opened the door to the basement. As she climbed the stairs, she passed a long window that looked out onto the car park and found the door to the upper circle. The door creaked and he stepped down the concrete steps, each one echoing his footsteps in the darkness. If anyone was down here, he thought, they would hear him coming a mile off. He slowed down, carefully placing the toe of each shoe onto the ground first to minimize any sound from his shoes. His heart was beating fast and he was struggling to listen as blood pumped through his head and his ears. His head pounding, he slowed his breathing to heighten his senses and calm himself. The view from the upper circle was just what Rhea had expected from the posters in the lobby, and although it was darker, there was still a sense of grandeur and atmosphere. She hunted up and down the aisles, not sure what to look for. There wasn't enough room to hide a person here. Perhaps Mike was dead and just dumped on the floor somewhere. She looked up and down the rows of flipped red velvet chairs. From the rail she could see the stage clearly, with its trapdoors, a remnant from the days when the organist used to rise through the stage playing the organ as the trolley people served their ice creams, popcorn and drinks. All around her there were wrappers and cartons, a reminder of how everyone had just got up and left all their rubbish behind them and evacuated the town before the big wave hit. The basement was musty, and Zac suspected it probably hadn't been aired in a long time, let alone seen the light of day. This seemed pointless, and he doubted Tommy was telling the truth about his father being here. He wrestled with that doubt, and it got stronger and stronger as he looked behind the wine cellar shelves and through boxes of theatre clothing discarded from the old days before the building was modernised and turned into a cinema. There was not a lot of anything, nothing useful at all. No clues, nothing that could link Tommy to this place, or the tall man, or his father. His face grew angry. "This is a waste of time," he said to himself as he climbed the stairs. Rhea passed the window on the way down and waited in the lobby, looking at her watch. At that moment the bell rang on the main door. It swung open, and there was a dark figure in the hallway.